Recording. All right. Thank you very much for joining. This is the February community meeting for PatternFly, February 2025. We're already moving right through this year. Smaller presentation today, but we're going to touch on some of the upcoming highlights for the coming quarters of PatternFly and breaking down some of the larger initiatives and feature plans that we're doing as we move folks over to PatternFly 6, which is very exciting. I'll share my screen. Slowly. Right up, see on the weather. Boop, boop. So many screens. There we go. Got a problem when you have this many windows open, I think. Oops, that's the share button. Sorry. Ah. Slideshow. That's the button. Okay. All right. So agenda, we're just going to go over the release highlights for 6.1 release. There'll be kind of high-level overviews. The release notes are linked in the doc as well. But we'll just kind of cover some of the big ones. And if there's any questions or anyone wants to elaborate, feel free to chime in. There's just some migration updates, talking about some of the design experience for migration. And then Nicole is going to do a breakdown of product adoption. And then we'll go into the big highlights of what's coming next. So this was a smaller release. PatternFly 6 was obviously released on Halloween last year. So with the month and a half time frame to try and just focus primarily on the bugs that were identified during testing. So we were addressing some of the highlights would be just like padding on breadcrumbs. There was no bottom spacer, I think, on the breadcrumbs as they existed. There was an option to add the full height support for code editor. This was impactful in ChatBot, I believe, as well. There was a spacing issue on the split button, so that was resolved. I think it was around the caret. Label truncation within label groups, where they would kind of be wrapping. There was a z-index issue on the wizard that made it kind of like it stacked weird, I guess, as you were scrolling. So that's been resolved. And Eric pointed out that there was an arrow key support for the menu select and drop down components. These are just some of the highlights. There's certainly more in the core release notes, but I just wanted to kind of talk about some of these high level things. This was kind of prioritized with bug fixing to help enable us with our support plans. So we were already working with product teams early on to get them moved over to V6. And Nicole will kind of elaborate more on that. But the emphasis was on trying to enable as many people as possible to start their migration journey. So with that migration, PatternFly 6 has a new Figma library, and there's a number of libraries kind of embedded. So there is the core component library, there's the tokens and styles file, which is managed entirely by PatternFly, which enables all of our theming work and has all the layers of tokens that get passed into the components. And then we also have the patterns and extensions file, which was new for PatternFly. So everything from quick starts to catalog view, topology, pipelines, chatbot, they're all housed in this extensions file, and it consumes our components from the main file. As folks migrate, I just want to bring up again that there is onboarding resources. So there's a slide deck. There's a whole recording that we did during a day of learning, just onboarding documentation, how to use the components, how to detach components, when to detach. We'll be going more in depth on some of these kind of talking points that came about from the day of learning onboarding session that we did. But those are kind of good resources to get started as you're starting to experiment with the new Figma library. And with that, I'll actually turn it over to Nicole, who's going to talk about adoption. So get over here, Nicole.
Hello,
That's fun, like in jokes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll share my screen because I have a different set of slides I'm going to run through. But what I wanted to walk through is an update on kind of how PatternFly has strategically been kind of pushing out PatternFly 6 into the Red Hat product space, and encouraging adoption, and just slowly, not as quick as we can, kind of updating the look and feel for the Red Hat product portfolio. So yeah, I'll walk through what our approach was, what our goals were, and then how it's going, and then also how we've engaged with UXD product design in these efforts. In terms of our approach, what we kind of hoped to do was identify some key strategic products, kind of like kingpins in the Red Hat product space, that would be the initial dominoes that would fall and hopefully trigger a domino chain of more products migrating afterward. So we've targeted OpenShift AI, some products in the managed infrastructure space, specifically hybrid cloud console, also known as console.dot. I'm not going to try to say all of the acronyms each time, but OCM and OCP, as well as Ansible automation platform. Those are the first products we set our eyes on. And here's how it's going. So Red Hat OpenShift AI has adopted PatternFly 6, and they are currently trying to wrap up the release, which will go out to the world, including PatternFly 6 running on their platform. They were targeting the end of January. It's February 5th. I haven't seen the release go live yet, but I anticipate they're just churning out the last tests and who knows what before that release goes live. So stand by for a big announcement and the ability to see PatternFly 6 running on OpenShift AI. The PatternFly team did engage very directly with OpenShift AI in order to get that done. So there's some information here about the JIRA tickets we were part of, the PRs we were a part of contributing to, and there still is an ongoing collaboration with them on using PatternFly's theming system in order to enable them to contribute some of their UIs that they're building for their product to the upstream community. So that's still kind of ongoing. Console.dot should have had an email go out this morning, I think was the plan. Maybe it hasn't gone out quite yet. I don't know. I haven't seen. But they should have an email going out today that announces that they're going to merge PatternFly 6 migration into their staging environment on February 13th. They've gotten the technical code review done. The PatternFly devs have engaged very much with that migration as well, driven a lot of that work. Shout out to Austin. I didn't know how many names to put in this exact slide deck because it could get pretty widely distributed, and I want to protect people's privacy, but I'll shout out verbally. Austin did a lot of work in this space to drive this code that's going to land and be merged into all of their code bases on February 13th. Here's some of the steps we took to get there. And it did involve UXD design engagement to review the visuals of PatternFly 6, as did Roy, actually. I'll get into that a little bit more when I talk about the product design engagements. Yeah, we've made excellent progress on console.dot, hybrid cloud console. OpenShift, kind of broken into two categories. OCM is the first. That's a product that does require the console.dot space to have completed their PatternFly 6 migration. So now that that's going to land on February 13th, they will have a runway. They've already gotten a head start working with our PatternFly developer, Titani. So that hopefully will land this quarter as well. That is the plan. And that is essentially what I just said the status is. So OCM is moving right along. That'll be a big, highly prioritized space in Red Hat's portfolio. And OCP is OpenShift platform, essentially. And they are also planning to, hopefully today, I just saw QE today, approve the PatternFly 6 migration PR. So that should have been the last gate it needed to pass through in order to get merged into their code base officially. So they are completely on track for releasing PatternFly 6 with their next scheduled release, because that hits code freeze in April. And so it'll have merged long before April and be released early June. It also means once this lands in their master branch that the dynamic plugins that all run on the platform, all the operators, can also begin their migrations, and they could, if they so choose, begin a migration to PatternFly 6 so that they have PatternFly 6 running in their dynamic plugins when 4.19 goes live. So we've removed the obstacles and the barriers. Each of those dynamic plugins will have their own roadmap and plan. So that's exciting. Ansible is beginning their migration to PatternFly 6. They actually had a sprint planning yesterday where they kicked off officially the work to begin their migration to PatternFly 6. And we are not exactly, I am not aware of an exact target date that we've committed to land it, other than ASAP, because I know that they would love to have PatternFly 6 enabled for Summit. And so that's basically an as soon as possible space for them. Ansible Lightspeed also already has incorporated a dependency on PatternFly 6 into their Lightspeed offering, which they are hoping to include as part of their Summit deliverables as well. So they are sounding all the bells and motivating the teams to make sure that Ansible continues migrating to PatternFly 6 as quick as they can. So there's a lot of momentum and a lot of action on the Ansible side as well. Anyone who would like to see in Red Hat's Jira, there is a dashboard that Evan has created to view all tickets that have been opened in Jira related to product plans and migrations that we're aware of to PatternFly 6. And so you can see the status of different product efforts and how large they are, because you can tell certain product spaces have many, 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 many Jira tickets as they've for how they've chosen to attack a migration effort, and some just have the strat, just have the one, eventually we get there kind of ticket. So it's an interesting view. And last, I definitely want to call out and kind of highlight what it's been like for PatternFly to partner more intentionally this time around with this major release with UXD design, because since PatternFly 6 comes with so many extra updated visuals, what we've endeavored to do is anytime a PatternFly or UXD developer has leaned into one of these product spaces, we've requested a design resource from their product space as well to give us an official approval before we call a migration complete. So the designers are doing thorough reviews and audits of the updated visuals, making sure that everything looks good, calling out any visual regressions or discrepancies or concerns that they have, and worked with us to iterate on those, so that UXD design has been able to give a thumbs up in each case, or are still working toward giving us a thumbs up in those cases, before we shout from the rooftop that a PatternFly 6 migration is complete. I think it's been excellent for building stronger relationships between PatternFly and the rest of product design. And it's been also excellent learning opportunities for both sides on what's in PatternFly 6 and how these kinds of processes go. We've had designers on Red Hat OpenShift AI. We've had designers from Hybrid Cloud Console or Console.dot, and we also have designers from the core platform space to help with the OCM migrations as well. And I will note, though, that I anticipate, so since we've been able to be so hands-on as a PatternFly team in these product spaces for these early migrations, we have been able to make the request and forge the relationship and bring in a UXD designer to these conversations. As more and more and more products begin adopting, as PatternFly development may be less directly involved, just because there's going to be so many more people moving so fast, we probably won't be in the position to always be asking or encouraging product teams to request design reviews. And so that is one thing I encourage, whether it be dev teams who are considering a PatternFly 6 migration or product designers who are aware of their dev team's plans, or their engineering team's plans. I encourage people to remember that this is a visual update, very significant visual update, and getting design sign off, getting design input as you do it is very wise. So since PatternFly won't be in the position to encourage every single time an engineering team to remember to engage a designer on this process, this is my call to action to please consider pulling a designer into your process. And if you have any questions about that, or if you don't have a designer, reach out to the PatternFly team, because we have a lot of friends who are designers and can either offer consulting from us or help identify a designer who could probably do a once over on a UI and do a review. So definitely a conversation worth having. There also is a resource that's been developed by some of the designers who worked in the console.dot space. As they did their PatternFly 6 conversion and design review, they documented their experience. They noted some of the things they learned about the gotchas in PatternFly 6 from their perspective. They have basically tried to collect as much resources as they could and guidance from their experience for any future designers doing a design review in PatternFly 6. So it helps you know what to look for. It helps you to know what's expected. Why is that blue over there? Why does that color seem different than I would have thought it would be? Some of those answers might be in this doc. So it's a resource that I highly recommend. Anybody doing a PatternFly 6 migration might benefit from, but especially someone conducting a design review of a PatternFly 6 migration. It also may be converted into a published blog post in the future. And that is all I have. Does anybody have any questions? I'm probably going to give a very similar presentation at an upcoming UXD team meeting. So any UXD people here, get excited for that. And it will include probably a lot more personalized shout outs, because the UXD team meetings are not published on YouTube. I just want to protect people's names in case that matters. And they're not here to tell me not to say their name. But all right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Nicole. Another great call out about the design involvement in review. And if that doc is very helpful, but if there's anything that stands out or you just don't know, feel free to reach out to the PatternFly design team. I'm trying to go around and be available as much as possible in product meetings and share updates about what we're working on, but doesn't hurt to just kind of keep reinforcing that. I'm more than happy to help, or even if there's any kind of issues with this component in Figma is just not usable for whatever reason, I can't get the variable to work. That feedback's all important, and we can make PatternFly better for our consumers, then I'm more than happy to have a chat and talk through it. So I'm not that scary, I don't think. I think I can be friendly-ish. All right, I will resume the slides. So we're going to talk a little bit more about what's coming next. I'm going to go back to this window. Oop. All right. So I've got some slides, but I actually will transition into our GitHub project boards too, just to cover some other things that aren't captured in the slides. All right, coming soon. All right, we've talked about this in previous meetings. It's kind of a higher priority effort for us is the micro animations piece. So we're trying to add more dynamic user experience across products, and we want to try and do it in a way that is not impactful to the product teams who have to implement. So we're trying to do as much as possible through CSS and styling, or handling as much in PatternFly as possible, so that consumers don't have to then rig up any crazy features to actually get this to appear in product. So we want to have as minimal footprint for you developing with PatternFly, so it just kind of passes on the benefit to the consumer or end user, I guess. These are subtle animations. We're not trying to hit anyone over the head or cause any kind of accessibility issues. It's all meant to aid and show things like progression or transitions, status updates. It's all meant to try and draw attention in a reasonable way and not be too distracting. So these, like I said, will be added natively in PatternFly from the get-go, so it should be limited impact on the products, but the work is listed in our issue, which I'll actually show shortly after these slides. It breaks down into kind of animation types on multiple components, and it'll show a bit more of a timeline of how these are going to be rolled out. We'll do kind of the larger demo on this particular topic, just because I find that it is kind of a big win for us. I was at a conference last week, and animations were actually brought up from someone who was formerly with Shopify. He led the Polaris work on their design system, and he talked about just the value and impact it had on the end user, which really jived with kind of the direction that we're going. So it's certainly not a new thing to see in design systems and product UIs kind of at this point in history, but we're really glad to have this kind of rolling into our design system now. Next is we have a large theming initiative, and part of that is a high contrast theme. Again, this is handled natively in PatternFly, so that there's, again, minimal impact on product teams. It'll just be available through our design system. This is in partnership with the Ansible team. We have a few designers who are going to support this, and we have our developers giving some insight. And there's a screenshot of the breakdown of some of the issues that we're trying to define and understand in order to solve this problem. Trying to cover as much as possible. You can see that I'm Canadian because there's a U in my colors. So pardon the spelling for anyone who's not of my nationality, or UK, I believe. We will be exploring more theming capability. This is kind of our first step into this accessibility space for theming in particular, but we want to try and make meaningful themes, not just updating brand colors to purple or fuchsia or whatever, but actually making themes that will serve a more diverse consumer base, and just have it part of the system that's less obtrusive. So again, I'll kind of show some of those issues in our actual roadmap. I'm actually going to let Eric talk a bit more about the accessibility, so I will hit mute.
Hello. Unbeknownst to you, Andrew, after agreeing to present this, I came up with an ulterior motive to presenting, and that is to announce that it is National Weather Person's Day, which might be controversial for some people, but if it's not, celebrate your local meteorologist and the like. And this is for like 4 other people in this call or who view the recording, but it's Derek Stephen Prince's birthday, who voiced Elgar in the Power Rangers universe. So there you go for the 4 other people who get that. But yeah, accessibility enhancements for PatternFly. We recently completed another batch of accessibility audits for several of our components in the library. And those are being tracked in the initiative linked there on the slide in GitHub. This is a continuous ongoing effort that we have done. This is, I think, like really the first time we're making it a lot more public facing and known. I've announced it, or I've mentioned it in previous community meetings, but yeah. This basically just helps us, PatternFly, continue evolving as time goes on, new findings, new accessibility enhancements in general come up and such, but also helps the accessible state for consumers using PatternFly, as well as users using the products that use PatternFly. We're aiming to get fixes in for this latest batch of audits, or this latest batch of components that were audited, and within the next couple of quarters. So Q1 and Q2, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, though, Andrew. And yeah, if you've been wanting to contribute to PatternFly, but just haven't maybe it's a little intimidating to get things running locally or what have you. Several of the issues in this current initiative are marked as good first issue with that label on GitHub. For if you're new to PatternFly and or accessibility contributions, those would be perfect for you, easy to kind of get into things. And that's about it for accessibility enhancements with PatternFly.
All about getting those badges. You can get your GitHub badges or your Rover people badges, all those extra bits of flair. So definitely good to pick up some of those issues if you're new to PatternFly and you want to get involved. Eric largely did this whole audit by himself, so big kudos to Eric for taking the time to really dive through and explore all these components. So massive shout out. Really appreciate the hard work on that. I think I called you stupendous in my message to you earlier today, so that holds. All right, I keep seeing my name on these, but I think actually Matt Nolting is going to share a little demo on Code Connect in Figma.
Yeah, I saw you putting your name on as a presenter on all the slides. Yeah, okay. Code Connect is a new feature in Figma, or provided by Figma. It's a plugin that allows reusable componentry code in our component library. And it's our approach and our goal is to simplify the token management process by providing bidirectional data transfer, and doing so in a very simple syntax so that both design and development can easily understand the structure, and it's predictable, and several other features just by optimizing and whatnot will make this much more manageable by designers primarily. There's a lot of I covered that. You go to the next slide, please. So, and Code Connect basically wires up any library component to a setting. And what that does is that when you make updates to your either React or Swift UI or hopefully Svelte, those updates appear in Figma so that you can consume those and use those. And one of the initiatives is to simplify. We have a really good naming syntax for all of our variables and a very good inheritance system. And one of the issues with that for the designers is there should be a picture or a pic of the Figma library. I don't know why it's not there. There should be a picture right next to that. I don't know why you're not seeing it. But basically, there's a massive, library management interface that pops up. That's an extension of that second image, which is the panel in Figma, where you assign those properties to your components. And our goal is to simplify this process, because if you're looking at the example on the left, that is going to get real redundant if we have to make one of these. It's basically creating a duplicate component that maps the properties and values. So our goal is to simplify that process, optimize it, and deliver a gateway that both developers or designers or anyone for that matter could go into, say, a GitHub repo and make updates, and those make updates to the properties and the classes and all the objects. That will be reviewable by the PatternFly team, and when it meets acceptance criteria, it can be merged. So we're working on that right now in the exploratory phase, and hopefully, if everything goes just perfect, we will have a complete and comprehensive system with error checking and type definitions and everything that's needed to really optimize this. There are some lacks right now in Figma, and Figma's kind of catching up to new things. So hopefully through that process, we'll also learn a little bit more about Figma and how we can either extend or contribute code back to Figma based on design their feedback, right? So one of the issues is that some of the variables don't want to interact very well together. It's because they're in instances and they have nested things. So there's a lot to unravel there, but I think we have a really good starting point, really good approach. And so I'm excited to see what comes of this. That's it.
Awesome. Thanks. This is tied to the larger initiative about automation and just trying to make things easier to consume and get into products faster. So we have offered, or we're adding support for Code Connect so that it can, when you're doing the design spec handoff, some of that information is baked in, so you don't have to necessarily go and search for documentation on PatternFly's website or like figure out what component this is. So it's just trying to make things a little bit easier and move more quickly towards delivering in product.
Hey, Andrew, do you mind refreshing? Can you refresh real quick? There you go. Okay. There. So that's the modal that pops up when you're managing your interface. And as you can see, all of those values relay back to a global token, and the global token has PF v6 C or PF global dash blah, blah, blah. And really all you need is the relevant term, which would be color 100 or 200, whatever that is. So our effort is to also take away some of the pain that might be caused by having to repeat that prefixing over and over. So that's it.
This also extends, there's the drop down on the Code Connect extends, you mentioned Svelte, but there's also like web components and other libraries. So this can be more than just a React solution.
Yeah.
I know the Red Hat design system folks use web components. I'm sure they'll be interested in this as well.
Yeah, the ultimate goal is, the platform, no platform really, right? Just platform agnostic, simple code, maybe some simple scripts. They work and produce this gateway. So.
All right. Moving along to the chatbot interface, I'll do some of the GitHub stuff at the very end. So next up is chatbot with Rebecca and Nicole.
All right, I'll try to go quick through this. These are some of the new features that are in our most recent full release 2.1.0. We have some of them pictured on the right. We have ordered lists now. We have these quick responses on the bottom right now. And these are great for if you have a more traditional styled chatbot that's not generative AI. We've also released a streaming button. So you can use this if you, similar to, ChatGPT and other people like that. If you have responses that are streaming, this is a way to hook it up and stop them. You can connect it to your board controller. And we've tested it in context of a streaming chatbot endpoint as well. So it should work for those end use cases. We're also releasing a modal that you can use in the chatbot for whatever you'd like. We are giving you more customization for our avatars, toggles, and response actions. And we have an accessibility update of it can perform well up to 200% zoom. And we have a new text area for the message bar. We had to sub this out because it was causing some problems with one of our consumers. We are still working out some kinks with this, but we are currently actively working on this. Next slide, please. Coming soon, and this is not vaporware, these are all real features. Most of them you can click up through and see right now that are going to come in the next release. We have compare view, and this is useful if you're comparing two models or a tuned model and an untuned model, something like that. We're providing a layout as well as a CSS class that you can use to wrap your chatbots and get this effect on the right. We are also providing a quick start style for use in messages. It's going to take a quick start YAML and generate the quick start style that you can see on the bottom right. We are also giving you a terms of use modal settings layout and some additional message types like tables, block quotes, headings. And we're also giving some additional improvements like resizable chat history, and then also different active and click states for some of the other message actions and responses. One last thing is we have feedback cards. And so this is if you have somebody who clicks thumbs up on your message, you can configure it to ask them for more details, and then you can configure it to display a thank you message as well. So very super quick overview of what's coming. You're going to see these all in 2.2.0. If we can go to the next slide. We have grown to about 5 users now. We have Red Hat Developer Hub Lightspeed. They were our first adopters and helped us build the extension. So we love you guys. Thank you so much. We have Red Hat Ansible Lightspeed, and they've been really great at testing, ChatBot, and super involved. We also love you. Thank you so much. Composer AI Studio has been super helpful in helping us test things and make sure that we had things to support streaming. And then we recently learned about the Shadowbot browser extension and Portal case management team. And we've really appreciated the opportunity to gather feedback and address concerns that they have. Coming soon, we have Instruct Lab UI is going to be adopting the ChatBot extension, and then Hybrid Cloud Console and OpenShift Lightspeed are also making plans for future adoption, which is really great and exciting. Next slide. And oops, one back. There we go. So where to find us? You can check out our GitHub. Please give us feedback if you have it. If you notice a bug, if you want a feature, let us know. We take feedback very seriously. We have new updates coming very frequently. If you want to test our releases, if you want to contribute, or if you're thinking about the ChatBot extension, we'd love to know who you are so that we can help you be successful and get to know what you need to be successful. We have docs available on the main PatternFly site for version 2.1.0, and then our pre-release stuff, most of what we talked about on that slide, except for tables, is in the second link, and this will be put on the PatternFly website with the next release. Tables will be coming within the next week or two. And that's it for our chatbot. Actually, wait, one more thing. One call out for docs. You're also really going to see improved docs with every release, and I want to give credit to our amazing team, everybody who's helped, Kayla and Aaron, for all the docs work and making those easy to understand and improved. It's getting so great, and it's getting better every single time. So thank you so much.
Now it's time to make Rebecca blush. She is the sole contributor really on ChatBot, and she's been, like you saw, there's a lot of people starting to use it. There's a lot of feedback and things coming very quickly, and she has done a fantastic job of keeping it all in the air. So if you can just like join me in clapping, a lot of claps. Thank you very much for all your hard work. It has been phenomenal, and thank you for joining the PatternFly team.
Couldn't do it without everybody contributed. So really, thank you everybody who's contributed to ChatBot. It means a lot.
Thank you. All right, so I'm gonna just delay questions for 1 second just so I can show some of the roadmap stuff. Okay, so there's the larger initiative section now for PatternFly that we've created that tackles like the major goals and themes of PatternFly that we're trying to accomplish. So I mentioned already micro animations being one. There's the theming work that's bundled into a number of themes, but they're all kind of in the same initiative. React 19 is one we haven't talked about yet, but it's something that we're actively working on. We get questions about React 19 probably on a weekly basis from different product teams. It's trying to update what we can in a non-breaking way so that we don't need to cut a new release of PatternFly. We'll tackle that as we kind of navigate all this different all these changes that are going on in React 19. So more to come on that, but I did want to call that out that it is something that we are working on. Huge project that may not be customer facing, but is super important. Don is leading the documentation framework, updating patternfly.org. We can probably have a whole meeting dedicated to that because it's a lot of work. But we're trying to improve our own website experience and boost performance. And I think through that, we'll probably look at some of the IA of the site as well. That will be a usability study on navigation and architecture for components. But there's a lot going on in that space, but I did want to call that out because it is a big undertaking for Don and Austin right now to try and tackle that. So just big shout out to them. And lastly, Figma Code Connect is part of the automation effort, but trying to make things as efficient and easy as possible for our consumers so that we're not kind of causing any friction in the path to making excellent products. So things like leveraging AI has been talked about, trying to take our own chatbot and apply it to our site, look at other opportunities to provide support and feedback and code. They're all important. So those are the big themes right now that we are striving towards, and things are still in flight, and we're still trying to document and record all this information. But those are just some of the callouts I wanted to share with everyone today. So on that note, I will now stop talking and open it up to questions. Does anyone have a joke? Why is the cannibal not like eating clowns? Because they taste funny. That was a bad one. I'm sorry. I was watching Alien Romulus the other day, and that's where I saw it. Not where you'd expect a bad dad joke.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Maybe I can try and see what. Let me throw one out there. What is brown and sticky? A stick. Duh.
What's the most important part of comedy?
What?
Hi. I mean,
All right. If there's nothing else, no other jokes, last minute jokes, anyone? All right. Sarah, come on. You got a joke. You're on camera, so I can pick on you.
I had some CSS jokes, but I forget what they are. I'll have to dig them up for next time.
So what did the Dorito farmer say to the other Dorito farmer? Hey, Cool Ranch.
usually something about nachos.
Nice.
The past, the present, and the future walk into a bar. It was tense.
These are good. We didn't end on these all the time. All right, we'll end here. I appreciate the jokes. Probably better than me talking at you for an hour. So I appreciate everyone sticking around. Thank you very much, and we'll see you at the next one. Take care.